I want to be respectful of everybody's time, and I am so glad that everybody joined me today. So I appreciate your guys' time and learning more about the Certified Divorce Financial Analyst and how I help clients. I know a lot of us have a trusted relationship already, and I appreciate that so much, and just appreciate your trust and my trust in you. And definitely look forward to hopefully maybe triggering something that you learn just a little bit more about how I help clients and really how I want my clients to be successful after their divorce is final and really financially successful, because that's one of my that's what I do, but it really helps them in all other areas of their life. And we all know this. So I want to dig in a little bit more about what I do or who I am, and why I wanted to work at Tranel Financial Group and why I became a certified divorce financial analyst. So really, I started out being a pilot. I don't know if any of you guys knew that about me, but I started off being flying planes. I went to Oshkosh and I loved it. I loved knowing how things worked, which really makes sense. But then after September 11th, ended up going into the financial industry and fell in love with that as well. And after September 11th, I felt that that was the track I wanted to take and worked for some bigger companies. So some of the major financial firms that I've worked for. And I happened to come upon Tranel Financial Group. And I was a little nervous, right? I had the golden handcuffs from the bigger institutions that I worked with. But why I chose and I finally moved over and made a really good decision to move over to Tranel is that our values matched. So I wanted to help clients and meet them where they were at, not the other way around. And I wanted to be able to really fit plans with clients and even uh, going through with how clients were invested and not just having a certain things that I chose from and put them into those boxes. And then to add on it, I always had a passion for helping clients that were going through life transitions, like divorce, of course. And Tranel really understood their clients and wanted to have somebody that specialized when clients had to make decisions while they were going through an emotional roller coaster and a hard time like divorce. They wanted that specialization. So it was really cool that, we came together, their values met my values. All the team wants their clients to succeed and wants their clients to have their best life. So I get to help people and I'm always around people because, as you know, I have 6 children at home and I've been divorced myself. So my ex-husband and I were both professionals. We had 3 children. And the time came that we knew that we needed to get a divorce. And the time was rough. And I was in the financial industry. And this is when I realized that there was a need out there for more financial education, especially if you are widowed or going through a divorce or some other emotional um, uh, event that happens to all of us in our life. And I said, okay, if I knew better and I was trained and I made decisions under an emotional state that I shouldn't have made, then what about people that are just living their day-to-day lives and they're not in the financial industry? This isn't their second nature. How are they getting supported and help? They have the family law attorneys like you guys or the mediators, and they have that professional to get through the law part. But what about their finances and what about afterwards? Because I could have really used help and I could have used that second person by my side as well as my family law attorney. So really coming together, and like I said, we've built this. I know I have some amazing people here on the webinar as well. But that's what like really triggered me to want to become a CDFA. So went through my own divorce and now I'm remarried again and I have three amazing children. As many of you also know that me and my husband now had a daughter with special needs. So another really hard emotional life transition is our daughter with special needs at 4.5 did end up passing away. And we knew she was born with a terminal illness and we tried our very hardest just to give her the best quality of life. And that's what we did. But those are when you have a couple that has a special needs child, that's another emotional state. And that's another time that really it's hard to come together and make those decisions that a lot of times, and it's actually 80% of the time, married couples with a special needs child end up getting divorced. And there's a lot of financial complications in there as well. So just a lot of times that where I can relate back to the client myself and also really put myself in their shoes and help them with their life. So not just the guidance of, like I always say, your best friend that, is your cheerleader, but how do the numbers really work in your favor? So I want to go through that today as well. Again, Tranel Financial Group has been in the Libertyville area for a long time. I think 33 years, if I don't get the dates correct. But we've been here since 1988, and we manage over $500 million of our clients' funds. We also partner with Great Lakes Credit Unions. I don't know if you guys knew that, and North Shore Trust and Savings Bank. So we partner with their banks as their financial institution, and I'm also marketed as a certified divorce financial analyst, really making sure people know, and then I can get them to the partners like you guys as well. So just another way that we're marketing this piece. So getting into it, how I work with my clients and why the process really works and is successful. Because if you look at it, we're all human. And what that means, I know it's a weird statement, but what that means is it means that we all come with a preconceived notion and beliefs around our money. So normally when we're not going through a tough time or going through a divorce, which is a whole life altering event, we have emotions, we have fear, is being one of the biggest things that shapes what we do and what we don't do. So when you're going through a divorce, a lot of times you can become overwhelmed or procrastinate, especially if you're not the one asking for the divorce. So now your whole life is changing, and maybe you're the one in a divorce or in a marriage, that one person will take charge of the money in most cases, not all the time, in most cases. And the other person, their responsibility is the other parts. Maybe it's the household, the raising the children. So we all have segregation of duties. So now, if you're asked for a divorce and your duty was not to do the finances, that really wasn't your thing, and you always say, well, I'm going to ask my husband, or I'm going to ask my wife, or my husband takes care of that, my wife takes care of the financials. Now it's your job to do that, and you're having a life-altering divorce. So a lot of times it is easy to put your head in the sand and procrastinate. We go through this emotional roller coaster. Everything can be great and fine. And then all of a sudden going through a divorce, we're on that downturn. And you're nervous and alarmed and you're frightened, and at the bottom, you're desolate. And you really, when it comes to investing, this is important, but also in making decisions throughout your divorce, this is very important. That now we're making decisions here in this frightened and desolate state. Are you thinking right in the moment, or are you thinking 5 years from now when you are hopeful and encouraged, right? We tell our clients that you're going to get to the other side of this. There will be another side, but making the decisions on the downturn for the other side, sometimes we're not making the best decisions, or we're rushing it and we don't know the actual financial impact. I go over 3 core principles with my clients, and I'm going to review that with you today. And the 3 core principles really go together with before the divorce, in the middle, like during the divorce, and after. And I'm going to take you through Eileen's story, because it could be 3 different clients, but Eileen really hit every single of one of these principles. And it really hits home on preparation before, why this client was referred to me from one of you. And then also during the divorce, understanding what was going on and understanding what she was deciding. And then after the divorce, how do we really hold hands afterwards? And maybe the family law attorney's part is over, but I've been there throughout the whole process. And now I can say, okay, this was the purpose of it. I know the whole process and the financial piece of it, but they're not coming back and saying, hey, I didn't know this, or why did I sign this? I'm really that liaison, say, okay, we're going to move forward in the future. These were the decisions, and now we want to make sure everything's on track. And this was the purpose of it. The first core principle is know how to spend your money to save your money. And that principle, it applies very heavily in divorce. And what I mean by that is what really helps unlock your financial freedom in divorce is really leveraging this principle to know what is your budget? Do you have knowledge over what your current financial situation is? Are you in control? Are you the one that's being proactive in making those decisions? Peace of mind decisions, really understanding what your assets and what your current debts are, where you are with your credit report, and building really a pre-financial plan. So, because a lot of decisions are made in the middle of the divorce, but what are we understanding what's happening absolutely right now? Because now you're knowing what help do you actually need. Do you need a mediator, or do you need a family law attorney? Do you need a real estate agent, or are you going to need somebody to refinance your home? Do you need a broker? So understanding these decisions of, okay, where are we needing these professionals? Where am I spending my money now? And how can I save the most money by being in control? If you do not know where you're at currently or how to spend your money to save your money, you really can have fear of living a life that's restricted. We know our clients, when they're making decisions out of fear, it's not good. Having less money to pay your bills, being afraid you're going to be taken for everything. How many times have we heard that? And do you have enough money to retire? We know clients are getting divorced later in life, in their 50s and 60s. I had one even in their 70s. And do they have to go back to work? Can they retire? Did they ever work? How are they going to live in retirement when they were relying on their ex's or their current husband's pension or Social Security? How does that look? Making those plans and knowing how to spend your money to save your money is so important, because this is all very scary. And this is when, in the beginning, we set the precedence of how the divorce is going to go in the process. So are you going to have your head in the sand and not be involved, making poor decisions, depleting assets that shouldn't be depleted, or having wrong assets that aren't going to work with you with your plan, or not having and living your full and happy life? So you want to be empowered and live independently. So we're going to take a deep look at this with Eileen and her story. So Eileen, when I first met her, it was a referral from a family law attorney that said, I need you to help her understand what her current budget is and that she's going to be okay to get divorced. And I'm going to tell you why here. See, Eileen came to me and she was very, very nervous, pretty much shaking nervous, because she does not want to talk about or understand money at all. She was unsure. She was very, very lost. Pretty much she was told what to do her entire life. She was told what to do by her family, her parents. There was a big trust account, so there was money involved. But she was told that she didn't know how to make decisions. And then she got married and her husband told her she didn't know how to make decisions and she wasn't responsible with money and all these things that she wasn't. And she was in a controlling and abusive relationship for 24 years. For 10 years, she tried to get out. And she kept going back because she really didn't think she was told she couldn't do it on her own. So she was very not empowered. She had no faith that she could be on her own. So I really laid out everything for her. So I got all of her financial information. We went through her bank statements, her credit card statements. We line itemed and I budgeted out and I put everything in a spreadsheet of what her money, where she was spending her money, where her kids were spending money, and how everything worked and looked. She finally had an understanding of what her base was. We also had projections of what her income could be and how she would live in retirement based on what her expenses were and what her expenses left would be. Projections, of course, but very good guesstimate on where she would be. And she said, okay, we're going to keep going through this process, because the judge was not happy because she kept going back and forth for the last 10 years. They knew her. And also she knew that she was not happy and not in a good relationship. It was abusive. She needed to get out of it. So now she was empowered and ready to say, okay, I'm going to go through this process. Everybody was happy because nobody wants to go back and forth with a client. You want your clients to move forward, especially when you know they're in a bad situation. So we really helped build like combination. So she knew that she could unlock her financial freedom and be okay with her finances in divorce and throughout the divorce process. It gave her the empowerment to keep going and to know what to negotiate. So she was able to relax and have peace of mind, smile a little bit, because she still was nervous, but she felt like she had support of me and her family law attorney and that we were doing what's best for her. So what I ask my clients during this time is I ask them, I said, what is one area that you want to be more confident about in your finances? So we take that area and then we build upon that. We build a plan for them. Because as you know, friends come in and say, you need to take this, you need to do this. I got this much in maintenance, so you should be getting that. There are no you shoulds. Every financial situation and every divorce is different. And my job on the financial side is to help somebody get their personalized, unique financial plan and to help you as the family law attorneys or the mediators or the other professionals that are on this call have a client that's solid, that knows what they have and that knows the decisions they're making are going to be okay 5 years from now. So just imagine if having that one client that is very unsure and going back and forth and you're not in, like, they're not in control, so you're not in control, and having them know that they're going to be okay and they're in control, that process goes a lot different. The second core principle I review with my clients is, are you financially independent after divorce? So can we go through the divorce? Can I? Yes. Now, core principle 2 is, are you financially independent to live on your own after divorce? Because, now we're really getting some solid information. But when you're saying yes to something, what does it look like in 5 years? What are the tax consequences? So the key is to understand that you're going to be financially independent and all the details that come along with that to plan for the future and those projections. So if you're, what goals are we looking for? What are you looking to live for the future? Are there kids? Is there college? So we look at everything. We need to know how to map out these decisions that are being made, and they're going to be final decisions soon. Before you sign that paper, what are your assets, your debt, your cash flow? What does it look like now, 1 year from now, 5 or 10 years from now? What does it look like in retirement? So we really put you, knowing if you're going to be financially independent after divorce, puts your client in the driver's seat. Negotiations go so much better when your client is empowered that they're saying, yeah, okay, I can give on this, right? Negotiation means that nobody's happy. Y'all compromise, but you're going to be okay. So nobody's giving up the farm. You're really just making that compromise, but making a smart, tactical compromise. And that's what I arm my clients with. So giving them that negotiation power and having them be financially independent. So if you do not have that, right, and these decisions are being thrown at you and thrown at your clients, you're feeling trapped and helpless and overwhelmed, maybe out of control, and you're being reactive instead of proactive. You want your clients to be proactive. It helps them in the future and it helps them be set aside and also saves them money, which we all really want for our clients in the long run. They also do not have the regret of making a decision that wasn't good for them, even though they wanted to make the decision at the time. They weren't really looking at the future. And now they come back and say, well, it's been 5 years now. I can't live. What am I going to do? They know that plan. Your client's empowered. They're not going to come back to you and say, hey, this is a wrong decision. What did you do? They're going to say, all right, I understand this going forward. And they're not going to come back to you afterwards. So looking at this through Eileen, she would really be empowered, but she was so controlled. This was a really bad relationship that if her soon-to-be ex would text her, would email her, any pushback, she would revert and crumble. And we had to go back to the plan and say, this is the truth. These are your numbers. We're reviewing this. And then showing her how it worked in the future and 5 years from now, saying, just because he says this isn't it. These are what the numbers say. This is your plan. You have the power. So we really planned for the income and maintenance. She had a career where she wanted to work a little bit less hours and get a better certification. So we were able to plan for that in there, saying, okay, even with you taking less hours and making less income, this is your child support and this is your maintenance. So we're going to plan with those numbers. And I know it was based on what she normally, had her income, but we were able to kind of plan everything in there with her taking less of an income, but what that child support and maintenance would be. So she understood what assets she had, what she was receiving. She did have a trust, and then they had a lot of assets in retirement and investment assets. What were those assets she was receiving, and how did that play into the picture of her planning for the future as well? And were there taxes? Could she use it? Would she have to wait until she was retired? We were able to answer and map out all those pictures for her and give her a clear picture of her budget and really what she was saying yes to. She was very confident. She was armed with financial empowerment, and that's really all I can ask for. I tell people, and if you look at your clients, ask, are they financially confident going into the future? If you can answer yes, that's great. How can we help build their plan and have their growth, their income and growth grow, which we'll talk about next. If it's a no, then that is going to be a great client for a financial plan. A divorce financial plan is going to give them that confidence. And we'll talk about that in a little bit also. So now looking at the last core principle that I review with clients is the growth in income strategy. And I correlate this back to Eileen's story is after her divorce was final, she had the final numbers, but she still was like, okay, now nobody's really telling me what to do. And am I going to still be okay? But I was there before. So now I can confidently say after, yes, you're going to be okay. And this is why. But really, this is all about you. This is all about the client, the growth and income strategy, and all about their future. The divorce is final. Now we build a timeline and a unique strategy and look at your finances differently. We want to organize them to be intentional in your new life or your client's new life. So if you do not have a strategy and your divorce is final, we all know people are like, divorce is final. I'm putting that divorce decree aside. I'm tired. I'm emotionally exhausted. I'm done, which I help prevent that from before too. I never say, don't say, I don't want to make a decision. I just want to be done with this. Let's look at it. But beside the point, this one says, okay, we want to be intentional in your new life. If you do not have a strategy, you're going to fall into old habits, right? New habits are hard. Now you have to build a new life, new finances, but you're going to fall back into old habits. And maybe it's building up credit card debt. Maybe it's, not saving appropriately. Maybe it's not having an emergency fund or not caring about retirement. When you fall into those old habits, you have to be responsible now. Our clients need to be responsible for their life. So if they don't plan properly, maybe they're going to run out of money. They're going to lose their empowerment and their confidence, and they're going to miss important deadlines. They're not going to be ready for emergencies that happen, or if they get taken back to court, or they not have their records really kept organized. I'm heavy on record keeping, communication records, everything. So helping my clients with that as well. So having that growth and income strategy helps you keep empowered, keeps you in the driver's seat after your divorce. So if something comes back, you're ready. Their clients are ready to go to their family law attorney and say, hey, no, I have record of this. This is what happened. You're the one in the driver's seat always. You're not going to run out of money and you're going to be organized. So it really gives you that confidence and clarity and keeps you on your timeline. You have your income, but I also tell clients that if it's maintenance is normally sometimes, but normally not forever. And it's rehabilitative. It is not meant to support you. So you need to have a plan for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. If it's going back to school, if it's how are you increasing your income to replace it when the child support or the maintenance ends. So coming up with that timeline and plan. I had another client came to me 2 months after their divorce, gave me their decree, and there was 30 days that there was a lot of things that needed to be done, and it was missed because they didn't want, their lawyer tried to talk to them, but they didn't want to talk about it. They wanted to go on vacation. They didn't want to think about it. They just were trying to live their new life, but there were timelines in the decree that needed to happen. So really having that timeline. I also have a checklist I use with my clients to go over changing beneficiaries, making sure your safe box is changed over. Little things like insurance at work. Are your beneficiaries changed there? Are you titling on your accounts? Are you taking your name off of any authorized users on credit cards? Titling of cars, transferring. All this stuff needs to take place, and I walk my clients through every piece so they have that organization and that confidence and clarity, and that they're the ones that are saying, hey, I did my part. Maybe that ex-husband didn't do his part, or ex-wife didn't do their part, but you did your part, and you had that professional to walk you through that. Also, that's really on the income side, right? Replacing the income, making sure your income's okay for day-to-day life. But the growth side, if you have these assets that come over, if they're retirement or if they're after tax, how are you investing those assets to make sure they're growing the most efficient for you if there is an emergency, or growing most efficiently for retirement? What are your plans? How does that work with your now 401k or your old 401k? We look at the all-encompassing plan and really make it holistic of what do you have and how do we make this work? Do you need some of this money for any remodeling? Are you getting money for the sale of a home? That is important to have that money grow And then also, if you need to use it for income later, that it's set up correctly. So we make sure our clients are set up correctly on that end as well. So they have the income and then they have the growth section, and how do those work together to come to a really one all-encompassing plan. So if you do not have a financial plan, like I said, these dates can be missed and you can be really unorganized, and also just not have, maybe there's a lump sum of money that it's a year and now you still don't have it in your control. Maybe it's not invested the way you needed to have it invested. Your client can lose out on a lot of money. So if we go back to Eileen's story of the growth and income strategy, seeing how was she successful after her divorce? She worked her whole life in a professional medical field, and she helped others, but she had the hardest time pulling everything together and having the puzzle pieces fit to help herself. So she knew how to give advice, she knew how to help other people, but how do you help yourself? And she was a professional people hired, so that's why she hired a professional to help her. So we were able to keep her on track. She wanted to be smart with her new life. She wanted to prove to everybody that she could be independent and on her own. She had that freedom and she was on her own, which was awesome, but she had the freedom and she was on her own, which was very scary to her. And she liked to revert back to say, I'm not good enough. Am I going to be okay? Can I retire? Do I have enough income to live? And we always were able to step back and say, okay, this is our plan. This is what we're going through. Yes, you have enough money to live, and this is why. Then here's your growth bucket of your assets that are very well invested and growing for you. And then here is where we're getting our income from. So she was able to compartmentalize and understand how everything worked and have a new budget, understand her spending. A budget is control. Everyone thinks a budget is, oh my goodness, I have a budget and I'm never going to be able to spend money. And they feel out of control with a budget. And a budget actually gives you control. You are telling your money where to go, and you need to be in control after divorce. A client does. So we built a new budget. We read through her decree. We organized the timeline in very bite-sized pieces. So we met every other week to go through and have it be bite-sized. So she wasn't, she was communicating what needed to be communicated with her ex, keeping track of the communication, and then having assets moved, credit cards out of her name, making sure titling of her cars were done in appropriate time, and that the assets were being moved to her, and she moved the assets over to her ex that needed to be moved, and that the quadro was taken care of as well, and having those accounts opened up. So we were able to go through everything with Eileen, and that gave her the peace of mind that she needed. She also was so excited because she wanted that career planning. She wanted to increase her career, and she was able to do that and come up with a timeline of when she can get her certification. So retirement planning also was so important to her because she was in her 50s and she wanted to make sure she could still retire. She wanted to travel, which we'll talk about, because she thought she couldn't travel, and we were able to get her to be able to travel now too, not just wait for retirement. So she had accountability. She knew that she had somebody on her side. She had a workable plan for her, and she was a brand new person. She has confidence. I saw her laugh. I saw her joke around, and that didn't happen before. I saw a new Eileen that was in a shell, and she broke out of it. And it was because that family law attorney referred her over to a financial planner that can help her. Everybody was partners with her. She knew she had the right pieces in place to make her life successful. When I talk about financial planning, it's really like if you think of a 1-bedroom studio apartment, it could be nice. You have all your stuff in there, but all your stuff's in one spot. So it can feel a little overwhelming. Then you move to a 4-bedroom house and you have a bathroom and you have a kitchen and you have a bedroom and you have a living room. Now your stuff in your bathroom is where it belongs. Your stuff in your bedroom, you have your bed, you're sleeping. It's separate from where maybe your TV is and all the kitchen and the noise. And then you have your living room, where your friends come. So you have your private space, you have your public space, you have all these areas. Everything is where it's supposed to be. And that's what having a financial plan, especially a divorce financial plan, is all about throughout the process. Having your stuff where it needs to be so and you're compartmentalized and you're being proactive. So she was very, very confident. She was able to be a better mom. And it's just so important to people. Like I said, finances are all encompassing of everything that touches your life. A better career woman, better career man, a better mom, a better dad. You're able to think more clearly when you know you're secure and you're financially secure and you're making the best decisions for you and your family. She was also able to go on vacations, like I said, now and not wait, which is so important. So that is the importance of having all these core strategies and why I am so passionate about working with my clients so they know how to spend their money to save their money. She knew she could take the steps to get divorced and go through the process and not delay, right? We want our clients to go through the process. We want our clients to, if they're supposed to get divorced and not go back to a bad situation. So that principle really gives people the base. Are you financially independent after divorce? So knowing during the process what you're saying yes to and having that confidence and really knowing, okay, I'm going to be financially okay. These are the decisions being made and they're the best for me. And I'm able to negotiate and be proactive. And then principle number 3, growth and income strategy. The assets that you have, are they growing appropriately? Are they in the right assets? Are they invested correctly? Can they be turned into income if needed? And the income I have, is that going to work? Am I planning when income like child support and maintenance may end? I have people also write down how organized they are. So they have this plan, they have worksheets. Like I said, the worksheets that we work through, financial paperwork. So understanding what financial statements we need. And then also the after divorce checklist, the household inventory. We keep people organized throughout the whole process, which is so important. So throughout this and through going through the core principles, I'm sure questions popped up in your head. So everybody on this PowerPoint presentation, you are my power partners. We're helping people build a new life and change their life. Sometimes you may have a quick question. What I have done is I have set aside time on Wednesdays from 9 to 4 to have that be my divorce centers of influence, my divorce power partners. Have that be time that they can call me and ask questions. You may have a simple question that you need to ask. Maybe somebody doesn't need a full financial planner. I think everybody does, of course. But you have some questions. I want to help you. I know I can reach out to you guys. You guys can reach out to me. That's the relationship we have. And we're helping people move forward in their life. So I have set aside that time. You can also call and schedule a meeting. I love coffee or lunch. So call 847-680-9050 and ask for Jennifer. A lot of you already have my cell phone as well. But I want to make sure that you have that time that you can ask me questions on the financial side. And I am open to that. I am your power partner. So please use that time. I want to thank everybody for taking the time to join me on this webinar. And I'm going to close with a quote. And it's important to me and important for my clients. So divorce is one of the most financially devastating and traumatic experiences that a person can go through. Money spent on not being organized or being angry or trying to get even or not understanding how everything looks is money wasted. Be empowered. We want our clients to be in control and clients to be educated. And I can help in that process. It was really great having everybody on here today. Thank you so much. And I hope you guys have a good day and I will talk with you soon.